All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome, welcome. Good morning, good evening, wherever you're tuning in from. We have Joe Dixon here, the engineering team lead for Laravel Cloud. Joe, how's it going?
Going great, thank you. How are you, Chris?
Doing well. Yeah, I am tuning in from Denver. And if you're in chat, let us know where you're coming in from. Joe, where are you?
I'm in a little town in the UK called Norwich, so it's a very sociable time for me, less so for you, I guess, Chris.
Yeah. What's up, chat? How's it going? Just Steve King. What's up? Chris Vidal, Hugo, Florian, Kabehe. Hi. Cool. Yeah. Well, so today we have Joe Dixon. We're going to do a Laravel AMA on the Laravel subreddit, and that's what we're doing. But we thought, you know what? Joe's fantastic on screen. Joe had a stream yesterday and or 2 days ago. Let's have Joe do it live and on camera, and have everybody in chat also ask your questions here so he can answer those. So that's what we're doing.
All right, let's see how this goes, I guess.
Yeah. All right. So the format here, everybody in chat. Hey, everybody. Fantastic. Love it. We're going to have some questions pop up on screen. We'll have, I'll just back off. I'll basically be like the voice in the background, and Joe will go ahead and do his thing and answer all these great questions. Cool. Everybody's saying, Joe, you were awesome on that last stream. What's up from Michigan, Tom? And last bit of housekeeping, if you all could hit that like button on YouTube, lets YouTube know, hey, Joe's awesome, and more people should watch Joe do this AMA. All right, let me grab the first question and we'll get started here. All right, Joe, I'm popping off, and here is your first question.
All right, here goes. And first off, it's nice to see some friendly faces, so thanks everyone for tuning in. Okay, first question. What does the length of support look like for Laravel and PHP versions? Well, right now we support PHP greater than 8.2, and we can go all the way back to Laravel version 8. And I think we'll support those for as long as we possibly can until kind of security fixes become a bit more of an issue. If those versions are no longer being supported by PHP, then it's a little bit more tricky for us. So yeah, I think we will do the best we can to support those versions for as long as we possibly can. All right, I'm just going to post the answer here in Reddit.
All right, perfect. Ooh, we've got some good questions in chat already.
All right, hit me because I can't find this question in Reddit. Which is strange because I thought it would be the top one. Where did it go? Okay, it's disappeared. I'll find that later and post the answer. But have you got questions from chat?
Lots of questions from chat. I did not anticipate this many questions from chat. Okay. Well, let me just drop you your next one, and then I will do some housekeeping on figuring out which chat questions to bring up.
All right, so next question is, what is Laravel Cloud using for infrastructure? If AWS, what is being used behind the scenes to orchestrate and provision? Yeah, you're absolutely right. It is indeed built on top of a number of different AWS services. Probably the standout service we use is EKS for managed Kubernetes, but I'm sure you can imagine that's kind of just the engine of what we're doing. And we have a whole bunch of our own kind of homegrown tooling laid on top to kind of manage the orchestration of that infrastructure. Hopefully that answered your question. I'm sure we could go pretty deep on that, but it's probably not the right format for that right now.
All right, so you're posting that one to Reddit.
I've just seen there's some extra on that question, actually. There's it's asking if we use Terraform, CDK, CF, etc. Yeah, there's a whole bunch of Terraform involved. And yeah, everything routed into cloud is via Cloudflare. So that's also a big part of our stack. Okay, got the answer in there.
Okay, perfect. Let me throw you a nice and easy one to just like fill the gap.
How did it feel joining the Laravel team? That's a great question. for me, it was, what are we coming up on 3 years now for me at Laravel? So got to cast my mind back a little bit. I remember being like, honestly, totally overwhelmed. It was almost like a dream. Well, it was an absolutely dream come true moment for me. I never expected it. I just saw Taylor tweet one day that they were looking for new members to join the team, and I responded to the tweet, and I had some back and forth with Taylor, and the next thing I know, I was joining all the rock stars of the Laravel team, which kind of felt a little surreal to me. But yeah, I feel incredibly fortunate to be part of this team each and every day. Thanks, Steve.
All right, let me do another one from chat here.
Hey, Joe, what is the plan for releases via tags? Okay, good question. So I guess that took me a minute, but I guess you're meaning if you tag a release in your own application in your source control provider, you would like to deploy from a tag. We don't have that yet. You're probably aware that we have push to deploy, and that will deploy every time you push to a specific branch. We don't have rules in place for tags, but I don't think it's a huge lift for us to do that. It's something that we've talked about before, and I think it's definitely on the roadmap for us to tackle relatively soon.
All right, bringing one in from Reddit.
All right, when will you be supporting MySQL databases? Well, there's two parts to the answer to this question. The good news is that we managed to actually ship our MySQL offering in time for GA, so when we launched on Monday last week. It's in developer preview right now, and because we're looking for feedback and for people to kind of use it and give us feedback on how it performs. The bad news, or the bad part of that story, is that we've temporarily disabled access while we work through a couple of minor issues. But we hope to have those resolved relatively early next week. And as soon as we restore access, I'll update the post here so that you can be notified, and you can then provision as many databases as you would like.
Perfect. All right, so you have been going for a few questions now. I'll give you like a water break, and if you need like a water or a coffee, take a couple seconds. I'll throw this one on screen. Not really a question, but just to get you that water break.
Thanks. I think I've been dreaming Laravel lately.
Okay, here's one from chat.
Is it possible to add more PHP extensions? Currently not. So we've built the base images for Cloud to include the things that we believe a majority of Laravel applications will need. We are getting feedback fairly regularly for additional extensions, and when it makes sense, we're adding those to the base image. But as this comes up more and more, I imagine there's a world where we will provide a way to kind of install custom extensions or additional extensions. I think the thinking for us to not allow any extension to be installed is it allows us to keep those build times really short, because we can have those extensions baked into our base images. We don't have to install those on the fly. But yeah, I think it's something that we will revisit in the coming weeks.
Great. Let's do a couple more from chat, and we'll go back to the Reddit ones.
Hello. Sorry, this is Bob. Hello, Chris. If you're using EC2 instances, then how can you hibernate an app? We can hibernate an app because we use Kubernetes, and Kubernetes uses EC2, but it uses EC2 as nodes, which we can then partition off and have different apps running on those same EC2 instances. So we actually control how those apps run on EC2. And the hibernation works by listening for HTTP requests, and if no HTTP requests have been received within the configured time within your UI, then we can basically take that Kubernetes pod out of commission. And so it will no longer receive, or it's no longer there able to serve those requests. But as soon as another HTTP request comes in, we kind of wake that pod back up. And it takes sort of 5 to 10 seconds to do that, but we wake that pod back up and it's ready to serve requests again. But yeah, essentially we can do that because we're working at a layer above EC2. Hope that answered the question.
And on the same note, on hibernation, here's one from Andy.
If your site is in hibernation, does the scheduler wake up? No. So if it doesn't. So if you have the way that Hibernation actually works right now is if you have your application environment is either a single cluster, so the app cluster, or it's a combination of app cluster and one or many worker clusters. As soon as your configured timeout for Hibernation elapses, the whole thing will, the app cluster and all of the workers will hibernate at the same time. So currently it's not possible to have the scheduler wake up. I'm not also sure that there would be a huge amount of worth in that, because if you want your application to wake up every time the scheduler is invoked, then it's kind of going to wake up every minute anyway. And I'm not sure that it would ever get to a stage where it could hibernate. But yeah, welcome to feedback there as well. That's kind of how it currently works.
And then you said the workers hibernate with the app cluster, but that is separate from your worker clusters, right? Those have their own set of hibernation times.
No, it's the entire environment. So you set the hibernation at the environment level, and any compute that you have attached to that environment will hibernate after the elapsed timeout.
Okay. Great. All right, here's one from Reddit. Thanks, chat. These are great questions.
Okay. Taylor has indeed said a few times that he likes to start a project by tackling the hardest problem first. What was it for Laravel Cloud? I guess for Cloud, like, because it was such a new thing for us, we've done products before where we interface with other people's infrastructure, but managing our own infrastructure was a completely different beast. I guess the hardest part was for us to kind of tackle the problem and prove the concept would work end to end. So we kind of split the project up into three. We had the web app side of things, we had the build service, and we had the application compute, so the thing that actually runs your application. For us, the build service and the application compute were the biggest unknowns at the time, so we wanted to tackle those first. So we kind of divided those off and went almost into silos to tackle those things. And at the same time, the thing that we were most familiar with was the web app. So we started to build up that alongside. We kind of worked out what the entities and stuff were that we would need to interface with the infrastructure. So we started to build that up on the side so that when we were able to kind of prove the concept of the build service and the compute, the web app was ready to kind of orchestrate the whole thing and allow us to click the button in the UI and prove that we could take that request, build the customer's application, and then deploy it and make it accessible on the web. I guess really that's the whole thing that we wanted to prove in time for Laracon US. So a lot of the kind of hard work and exploratory work was done in those first, I want to say, 4 or 5 months, I guess.
All right, that's a Reddit one, so you can go post that one.
You have to go find it. Everything's moved around. I guess that's how upvotes work. I found it. There we go. There we go.
All right, perfect. I'm trying to... And yeah, chat, keep dropping these in. We are compiling the list. I think what we can do is if we might have missed a question, there's a lot in here. I think we can compile all these into like a blog post and just have all of these answers kind of in a list. And if we missed yours, we'll get to it in there. But we are trying. Let's see what's next. Bobby, what's up, Bobby?
Hey, Bobby. What upcoming item on the cloud roadmap are you most excited about? It's a great question. Honestly, I've been so focused on launch that post-launch stuff has been on the kind of right to the back of my head for now. What would that be? I can't think now. I'm on the spot. I guess for me, and we haven't like fully committed that we're definitely 100% going to do this yet, but as probably a bunch of you are aware, I was responsible for bringing Reverb to Laravel. That's the kind of first party WebSockets package. And I would love to see, and we've had this question asked a lot, so I think there's a very good chance that we do add support for it. I would love to see kind of Reverb as a first party offering. So providing WebSocket support directly in Laravel Cloud.
Awesome. That's great because I did see some Reverb questions in there. Here's another one on pretty much roadmap.
What are you planning to expose in the upcoming cloud API? I mean, TBD a little bit. I think there's a lot of stuff that we will just be table stakes. So people being able to kind of configure applications, environments, change their compute settings. I think there's a lot of stuff that just makes sense to have in our API. I think there's another aspect of this as well. I don't know if this question has come up because it's been mentioned a few times now, but people would like a Terraform provider for Laravel Cloud. And of course, we need an API in order to power that Terraform provider. So I think a lot of it will come out in the wash based on what we need to provide in that Terraform provider and what makes sense to be in our API. I think there's some kind of low hanging fruit that we can potentially tackle that gets us out the gate quicker. But yeah, it's not something that we have like spent the time designing yet. So I think, yeah, there's still an element of that to go through.
All right, another one from Bobby. Good questions, Bobby.
Yeah, there are a bunch. So when an application is built, we need to store the Docker image in a registry, and at the moment that's stored in ECR. We use S3 for a bunch of stuff like logs. I'm blanking a little bit. I guess we use EC2 instances that run on the attached to our Kubernetes clusters. What else have we got? A whole bunch of load balancers, all that kind of, yeah, there's a bunch of AWS services that we rely on.
All right, perfect. Let's do one from Reddit.
Okay, what makes something specifically optimized for Laravel over other existing optimization solutions? I'm not sure what this question refers to in terms of existing optimization solutions, but the thing I can say about us is that we've been provisioning servers and deploying Laravel applications in various forms over the last 10 plus years. And so I guess this uniquely positions us to know what Laravel applications and developers need and use. And I guess we then take this knowledge and we can use it to configure our runtimes in the most optimal fashion. We can provide hooks into the deployment process to allow users to configure our application. We can provide ways for customers to enable Octane support, fire off commands, and enable their scheduler directly in our UI. And then there's like DX niceties, like if you attach a resource to Laravel Cloud or to your environment within Laravel Cloud, we're going to automatically inject those environment variables. So there's just reduces the number of configuration steps needed. We even do clever things like, I mean, it's not that clever, I don't think, but it's just like the detail that we sweat to make this thing as smooth sailing as it could possibly be. But things like when you first provision your application and you don't have a database attached, in the deploy commands, the migrate command is commented out. But as soon as you go and you attach a database, we know that you're going to want that database running in your application. And if you're running a database, there's a very good chance you're going to be using migrations. And so we literally go and uncomment that line from the deploy command. So as soon as you add your database, you hit the deploy button, all your migrations are going to run. So we tried to sweat the detail to make these things as easy and simple as possible for you.
All right. Man, I feel like we should have Joe here for like 8 hours doing this. There's so many good questions coming in.
I don't know if I'll last that long, but we can try.
Okay, there are a lot of Reddit questions, so we're gonna push forward on those. Keep them coming in chat. We will grab all of those as well. But let's go for this one.
Will we have the ability to run custom scripts after deployment, like a post-deploy hook? So yeah, already in the Cloud UI, there is an area where you can go and write or fire off which scripts and artisan commands you want to run post-deployment. The most common one you're going to see there is, as we just talked about, migrations. But you're free to run any scripts that you have as part of your application here in this section.
All right.
That's a relatively quick one. I'm going to find it on Reddit, though. Give me a sec.
Yep, take your time.
I found it. Where's it? Okay. What do we got next?
All right, next up is, oh, no, sorry.
I saw Vlad sneaking in there.
Yeah. Actually, that's my fault. I clicked it. Vlad.
Do we pay extra for Octane? Definitely not extra, no. I mean, we can arrange that if you'd like to.
All right, here's another one from Reddit.
Does Laravel Cloud support, or are there any plans to support multi-region deployments? So right now, no. Applications are deployed in a single cloud region only. We've talked a little bit internally, and we might continue to explore multi-region deployments a little bit later down the road. But it's not really so much the app side of things which we need to tackle. It's not really the challenging part of this. We can take traffic and balance it across to the closest region. The biggest problem of this is solving the supporting resources, things like databases and caches, because if you can get your request from the user quickly and process it, that's great. But if you've then got huge latency between that and the services that you're interacting with, then it doesn't really put you in any stronger position. So there's a whole lot of stuff that we need to unpack there. I'm not sure if we'll ever end up with multi-region or not, but it's definitely something that we're still discussing. Just going to hit reply here. Okay.
All right. Here's another one from Reddit.
Okay, I would gladly read about a few key super technical aspects of optimizing infrastructure for Laravel and PHP. I think that's kind of tricky to do in the context of an AMA. I think one day, probably soon, we'll end up in a position where we want to write up some blog posts about how we've done really technical things like sharded out customer workloads to spread across multiple clusters within multiple regions and multiple AWS accounts. Each region with its own build cluster, and how that reports back to a central control plane that ultimately orchestrates measures and bills on how those workloads run. There's a whole bunch of stuff that's running behind the scenes that would make for really good technical posts. It's very difficult to kind of share concrete things like that in this kind of format. So watch this space and we'll follow up soon.
All right, let me know when you're good on that one.
I can't find it again. Okay, got it.
All right, perfect.
Let's
Grabbing
go.
the next one.
Okay, how will Cloud handle HIPAA use cases? Will you sign BAAs? Is HIPAA on the roadmap at all? Not highly specialized isolated workloads, but similar to AWS. I think generally we have plans to support HIPAA, but right now I don't have a concrete answer to when that will be. All right, I've got that one posted in there as well.
All right, next one.
Was there a reason to choose Cloudflare R2 for storage? I ain't no DevOps, but wouldn't AWS to AWS S3 internal be much faster? It depends a little bit. I guess we chose Cloudflare because we're already using Cloudflare to route requests into cloud. And so doing things like serving static assets, which is of course not the only means or only use case for object storage. But to serve that from Cloudflare is logical because it means it opens up possibilities for us to do extra things like leveraging additional layers of caching and that kind of stuff, and even bot management rules and all that kind of thing. There are also egress charges to think about with S3, which are not the same with R2. So those are kind of broadly the reasons why we decided to stick with or to go with R2 for object storage. Okay, got this one. I'm gonna reply. There we go.
All right, perfect. Let's go for I've seen a couple of similar to this one in chat, so this should be able to answer a lot of those.
Any plans to support non-Laravel apps? Say I have a Laravel API and a Vue, React, Svelte, whatever, SPA. Will I be able to deploy the SPA with Cloud like I can the Laravel app? I think the goal for Cloud right now is to do Laravel applications, deploy and run and manage Laravel applications, and do that really, really well. I think we would love to make it possible for our users to be able to deploy their entire application on Cloud. It's just not something that we have in a concrete fashion in the roadmap right now. Okay, got that one posted as well.
All right, cool. How you feeling? You want a water break?
Yeah, I drink a lot of water at the best of times, so.
Yeah. Joe's only allowed to drink at designated times during the stream. All right, here's a good one that I've seen come up a lot this week.
How is it different to Forge? How is it different to Vapor? So I guess the key difference is that Cloud is a fully managed service. So it's perfect if you don't want to worry about configuring infrastructure and you would just prefer to rely on us to manage things like auto-scaling, Hibernation, and all those security things on your behalf. If you want some control over the configuration or more control of over the configuration of your servers, or if you're dealing, I think that's a really good use case for Forge. And if you're dealing with like really spiky traffic, then maybe Vapor is also a good option for you because of the ability to kind of scale up and down. I mean, Cloud goes some of that direction with Hibernation, but I think it's just which tool fits you for your particular use case. Hopefully that answers the question. We also have a couple of posts actually or a couple of pages on the Cloud website about how the differences between Cloud and Forge and Cloud and Vapor. I didn't put them, we'll get those posted a little bit later in response to this question on Reddit. They do a really good job of calling out some of the other differences.
Yeah, I dropped one of them in the chat.
Oh, nice. Okay. Gotcha.
Cool. All right, next one.
Are there any discounts for non-profit organizations? I don't believe that's something that we have on offer right now, but I'll definitely take this question back to the team and we can discuss this further. All right, I'm going to post the response here. Excellent.
All right, here you go.
Will Laravel Cloud be SOC 2 Type 1 or 2 compliant? Will it work on any data center, AWS, DigitalOcean, OCI, etc.? So we are very much a long way down the road of becoming SOC 2 compliant. In fact, I believe in the next few weeks or so, we will be having our audit for Type 1 accreditation. And we don't believe Type 2 will be too far down the road after that. Will it work in any other data centers? Cloud's exclusively on AWS right now. And I don't know if that question is aimed at, can it be used in your own AWS DigitalOcean accounts? That's not the case. So it's in AWS accounts owned and managed by Laravel. So we control all of that and manage all of that infrastructure on your behalf. Okay, gonna grab that, post that here. Got it. Okay.
Okay, this next one, I like more of a Joe question.
Did working on something as ambitious as Cloud force you to learn more about certain areas you previously hadn't spent much time in? If so, what was it like? What types of resources did you rely on? Yes, I've learned a bunch in the last 9-10 months. I, at the point of starting Cloud, had never used Kubernetes. I'm still not super close to it because I'm not like on the infrastructure team. But at the very beginning, I did end up building out the first version of our build service. So I mentioned earlier on in the AMA that we kind of split it into 3 chunks. I, for some reason, ended up being the one that tackled the build service in the middle. I will caveat that by saying it's changed a lot since then, and it's a lot faster and a lot more resilient and all that good stuff because we've had people on the team to kind of take over where I left off. How did I learn and what types of resources did I rely on? I read a lot of books and I consulted a whole bunch of AI, which was really, really incredibly good for tasks like this. Okay.
All right, so we've been crushing through these Reddit questions. There's a lot on that AMA. Definitely check it out. But let me grab one from chat as well. Here's one from Andy. What's up, Andy?
Is there a way to directly run Artisan command in Cloud? So yeah, in the UI, when you have your environment all configured and deployed, you'll see a tab there called Commands. And that's literally for that. So you can run an Artisan command there, whichever one that you want, and it will basically grab one of your running pods and it will run the command on that pod for you and then present the feedback of that command directly there in the Cloud UI.
Okay, next one.
Can I install ImageMagick or other similar packages on Laravel Cloud? So we talked a little bit about PHP extensions earlier and that we provide a base image that has the dependencies which we believe are the most commonly used baked in right there. And ImageMagick is one of those. So you can indeed go ahead and use ImageMagick right now. And yeah, refer back to the other question about custom extensions and other things that you may need. As I said previously, we don't have that ability right now. We have a set of extensions baked into our base images. But it's probably something that we're going to explore as time moves on to allow you to kind of install those custom extensions as you need them. Okay.
All right, here's a good one from chat.
Can we have multiple app in one instance like we do on Forge? No, not right now. So currently an app is essentially one linked to one GitHub repository, if you like. So you connect your application to GitHub. It's one repository that you connect to the app. And then within that app, you can have multiple environments. So typically what you might do is have your production environment linked to your main branch. And then you might have your staging environment linked to your develop branch. But right now is one project, one repository per application. Okay, I'm gonna, that was not a Reddit.
That was a YouTube chat one. Yep. All right, here's one from Reddit.
Can the application scale to 0? And is a serverless database used? What level of elasticity and scaling does it allow for varying load? Okay, so yes, we've talked a little bit about Hibernation already. So we call scale to 0 in the context of cloud hibernation. And our app compute is able to scale or to hibernate. I almost called it the term that I said we don't call it. So you can hibernate your app compute. And if you're using our serverless Postgres offering, that will also hibernate as well. So the combination of those two is a really good fit if you're not dealing with huge amounts of traffic. That's a really nice way to keep your costs down. From terms of elasticity and scaling and how it allows for varying load, right now, auto scaling happens when any of your compute hits 60% CPU. So as soon as we hit 60% and your scaling range allows you to scale up higher, we'll provision another pod and help share that load. So like I said, 60% CPU at the moment, but we do have ambition to make this more configurable so that you have more control over what those levers are that will handle the scaling. Okay, got that one. I'm going to post a reply. There we go.
All right, perfect. So I have seen a lot in chat about Reverb. Probably makes you feel good to see all the love for Reverb. But here is another question on Reverb. So if you've asked a question about Reverb in chat, this is your question.
Will you be adding support for WebSockets in some form, ideally a plug-and-play solution that's integrated into Laravel Cloud rather than set up your own worker and do all the config yourself? Yeah, I think that's ultimately what we would like to do. We would like you to be able to say, if you've been into Cloud, you'll see there's the resources area, which includes things like databases, caches, object storage. I think the goal and the ambition will be to have WebSockets as an option in there, and you would just provision a WebSocket server of the size that you need, which will probably be related to something like number of messages or number of connections. And then in the same way that we do with all of those other resources, as soon as you provision that, we would then inject those relevant environment variables into your environment. And so you would automatically have WebSockets available to your application. So that's the ambition. I'm not entirely sure right now where that sits on the roadmap, but I think, yes, the short answer is we would very much like to bring Reverb to cloud. Okay. Posted my response there.
All right, here's, I've seen this one a lot this week as well.
Yeah, me too. I've seen this a lot. And the short answer right now is that no, we don't support monorepos. But the fact that this question has come up this much, I think that maybe it's something that we should tackle. Yeah, I would basically love to hear from, like, if we can follow up in Reddit on this about what the actual use case is and whether there's kind of enough similarities in the way that people set up their monorepos that we could make this possible. I think this is definitely something that we should look to explore. All right.
All right, lining up the next one. But what I have seen, which is really cool in chat, if any of you have seen that a question has already been answered, I love that some of you are jumping in and just adding in the answers that Joe has already said. Really appreciate that. That's awesome. All right, Joe, next question.
Okay, how does Laravel Cloud balance the need for monetization with ensuring Laravel itself continues to improve in ways that don't just serve the business model, but also broader the developer community? Well, I guess I can't really speak for the open source team, but from my perspective, projects like Forge and Vapor, Envoy, and now Cloud, and eventually Nightwatch, only help the Laravel developer community. They're tools which make life easier for teams running and maintaining Laravel applications in development and production environments. And the revenue from those projects helps with the open source offering. I mean, you've probably seen that we've hired more people into the open source team, and that's been, the fruits of their labor have shown in things like the new starter kits that we've seen from Tony and the VS Code extension from Joe T. And the fact that we've been able to bring Inertia, kind of one of the most popular packages for the Laravel ecosystem in-house, is kind of echoes that sentiment, I think. All right.
Oh, this is a fun question that I don't know the answer to.
I'm not sure I know the answer to that either yet. It's something that we want to make this as easy as possible because I think there's a good chance that if you're using Cloud, that Nightwatch is going to be a really nice way to help visualize what's happening in your application. We obviously have logging and stuff built into Cloud right now, but the additional tools that Nightwatch will offer on top of that, I think we'll want to make it a one-click integration. And vice versa. So from Nightwatch possibly back into Cloud, I think there's going to be nice synergy between the two products. But exactly what that looks like right now is still TBD. I mean, Nightwatch haven't fully launched yet. We've only just launched this week. So I think this is stuff that we'll start to unpack in the coming weeks.
All right, sorry, prepping the next one. Kind of a
Good.
longer one. Trying to trim it down.
Would it be possible to install anything? For example, a job which processes PDF files that uses some Linux program. I think ultimately right now you're sort of limited to what's included in those base images that I've talked about a few times, which we provide those because they're optimized for running Laravel applications. And I think once like the dust has settled on this, I think there's a very good chance that we'll want to make it possible to access kind of supporting programs to kind of work in tandem with your Laravel application. So the short answer is no, but I think there's a good chance that it happens in due course. Yeah. Gotcha. There we go.
All right, I have a Chris, not myself, a different Chris in chat with 2 good questions.
If this is Chris from the team, there's going to be problems. Here in Australian region, AP Southeast 2 is coming soon. Also, is it likely that MySQL will be able to scale to 0 in the future? Thanks. Australia region, if I don't know off the top of my head if that is Sydney, but Sydney is likely to be the next one up. So if that is Sydney, then yes, you're absolutely right. Is it likely that MySQL will be able to scale to 0 in the future? I think technically it's possible, but obviously it's slightly different between App Compute and MySQL in that MySQL needs storage backing it. So we have to figure out that side of the story, what happens to that storage while it's scaled to 0 or hibernating, and then how we reattach that storage after the fact. So it's not coming out the gate, but I think it's something that we would like to explore.
Great. This one is, I see a lot of these questions that are similar to like, I have multiple apps on a single like Forge box. How do I bring that to cloud? So this is one.
I think the short answer is no. The 3 domain limit is a fixed limit for right now in terms of what happens with the production plan. I think there's a scenario where we possibly offer more custom domains as an add-on type feature, but that's not something that's set in stone yet. Not something I can confirm right now. I guess that like I don't know if that question was from you specifically, Chris, about bringing multiple like one Forge box with multiple apps running on it, how you would do that. I think that would be slightly different in that you would, in the context of cloud, you would need a different application for each one of those sites that you've got on that single Forge box. And so in that scenario, you would get 3 domains for each one of those environments that you have configured.
Yes. Sorry, I think that was me reading the full question differently than the shortened question, but
Okay.
you answered it perfect. Yeah. Okay, here's another good one, specifically on. Oh, I'll let you finish that.
Just give me 1 sec. Okay, got it. Gotcha. What were the biggest technical hurdles your team faced when putting cloud together? I mean, I'm sure you can imagine there were a bunch, but there was one that rumbled along for a long time, and for a long time we didn't know how to solve it. And that was the ability to monitor bandwidth usage on a granular level. So we want to be able to understand when traffic from an application leaves and goes internally or goes externally off to some other service. We want to understand when traffic is coming into the app or traffic is leaving the app in form of a response. And you wouldn't believe how difficult this stuff is to track, particularly in the context of our infrastructure and how we have things provisioned. And so this rumbled on for a long, long time, and it was kind of a joint effort between a few of the members of the infrastructure team who actually finally cracked it around, I think it was the turn of the year. So this happened like fairly late in the day, and for that entire time, we weren't sure how we were going to solve that problem. So we were very happy when that one came together. I think there's a separate part to this question. It's a long question, but Given the hot topic there's LLMs and AI, was it used when putting together cloud? Some companies tend to frown heavily and some outright ban code generation tools. Interested in hearing your stance on it. I don't think we do a ton of code gen, honestly. I think for the most part, AI is extensively used, but in the context that I mentioned earlier, as kind of a sounding board when working through new concepts or difficult problems. We'll use AI a lot for that kind of thing.
I'll tack onto that one from my own question. What's your editor of choice and your AI of choice?
I'm very thankful to Joe T because I'm a VS Code user, so the new extension has been invaluable to me. And yeah, I've been a VS Code user for a long time now. I kind of like the fact that it kind of sits somewhere in the middle between a text editor and a full-blown IDE. But I think with the plugins I have a pretty good experience, and the muscle memory is there for me now. So I don't think it's something I'll change in a hurry, particularly with that new extension available. I'll use a little bit of Copilot in VS Code. I find it really useful for things like stubbing out tests. Like it's incredibly good at that kind of thing. And if I need something else, I typically reach for ChatGPT. I never have got super into Claude. I've always stuck with ChatGPT. I should probably venture out and try some other AI.
Yeah. The cool thing about AI is all you got to do is wait and everything just gets better.
Yeah.
All right. Let's see. Cool. All right. Seems like everybody's loving this format. How you doing, Joe? We're coming up on the hour mark, so I just want to check in on you and
I'm
see how
good, yeah.
it feels. Yeah.
It's been an hour already.
50 minutes.
Okay. Did I respond to that? Oh, I only answered half the question. Sorry, let me just edit that response.
Cool. It seems like everyone's liking this format, though. I think we should definitely do more of this. If you do like the format, if you could give us a like on YouTube, that'd be great. Subscribe if you're not already subscribed. Would appreciate that. And let's see. I saw a really cool one from chat.
We use Cloudflare and customize it quite a bit to fight off bots, attacks, etc. Can we use it with Laravel Cloud to retain customization without having two layers of Cloudflare on top of each other? Yes, you can. So there's a very precise set of precise approach that you need to go through to verify that domain. I need to revisit the docs actually and make sure we have this written down well. But if you are already using Cloudflare and you want to preserve your own rules, the only thing that you have to do is when you verify your domain, you need to make sure that you use the CNAME record rather than a record verification. So we've called this out in the UI. When you get your DNS verification records, you'll see that there's a kind of a blue information sentence or paragraph on there that just says, if you're using Cloudflare, make sure you use the CNAME records and then your rules will be preserved.
All right, this one is from myself. Taylor tweeted the other day, super happy he got the taylor.laravel.cloud vanity domain. So here's the question.
Yeah, you can probably guess the answer. I think I got a little bit caught up in everything that was going on in launch, and I forgot to grab my own subdomain. So Joe T got it, but it's probably only fair because I got Joe at Laravel.com, and I also got at Joe in Slack, and so he's been playing catch up a little bit. I did hear a rumor that he's going to donate it back to me, but I'm happy to take one for the team and let him have it.
Oh, I wouldn't take one for I would take it back. I'm in this fight with Chris Fidel right now.
Oh, yeah.
All right, let's see. I saw a couple more good ones in chat. Let me grab.
I'm sorry, I was looking at the other screen. Will there be an affiliates or referral program for cloud? I don't actually know the answer to that. I don't think there's anything planned right now, but that's something that we can definitely discuss internally.
Okay, cool. I actually do know that we do have a program coming in a couple months.
Okay.
So stay tuned for that. It'll be able to pop up in your dashboard. So let's see. Oh, this question is a classic. I'm surprised we haven't gotten it until now.
Uh-oh. It's a good question and not something that's prioritized yet, but I know, like, so we have a designer on the team, capital D designer, because that means they're official, called Hugo, and Hugo is very keen on dark mode. So if Hugo can make it happen, we'll make it happen. I know people love dark mode.
All right, sorry, just grabbing, let's see.
I actually used to be a dark mode user, and then I went all in light, and now I'm a bit of a mixed bag. So my editor is dark mode, my terminal is dark mode, but everything else is light mode. I'm not quite sure how I landed here, but I kind of like it.
What's your Slack?
Slack is light.
All right. Yeah, I'm in the middle too. I don't know. I like try to do the automated switching, but it's just I just have to have it set.
The day and night switching.
Yeah, not good enough
Yeah.
though.
All right, I don't like it. I'd rather just burn my eyes in the nighttime.
Here's a good question from chat. I think this is I haven't seen this come up too often, but here you go.
Some people are talking about Laravel Cloud is not mature yet. What are your thoughts about it? Well, I guess in terms of the fact that we literally just launched on Monday, I guess you could take the approach that we're not mature, but I would say that's just in terms of like launch. We've been doing a lot of testing behind the scenes. We've had an early access program running for the better part of 6 months now, where we've ironed out a lot of the kinks along the way. So yeah, I mean, I'm very happy with the way that Laravel Cloud performs. Yeah, I wouldn't call it immature. It's just the fact that we're brand new, I guess, is why people are saying that.
All right, I see Chris Fidao in chat. He says I can't handle the Chris at laravel.com domain or email.
Did you actually get the Chris subdomain then? And Chris didn't get. Oh, he got. Yeah, okay.
I got the subdomain. Yeah. I got the Vanity domain, and then I also am at Chris in Slack, but he has the email.
He has the email.
This is a fun one.
What project management software did you use when building cloud? We are using Linear for project management. We're using Linear, and the last 2 weeks before, actually the last 3 weeks before launch, we went into kind of hyper focus mode. From in the build up to Laracon EU, we did like a team almost hackathon. And we did that like the 4 days before Laracon EU. We all got together and worked together as a team so that we could do like fast feedback cycles in the same room and really put some last minute polish on it. And during that time, we worked from a Notion doc that just had a list of the things that we wanted to get done. And we found that like for that hackathon session, it found that worked really, really well. And so for the last 2 weeks where we knew we were like hyper focused on the last remaining things that we wanted to get over the line, we continued that through and worked from a Notion doc. But we'll be moving back to Linear when we return to kind of business as usual.
All right, here's one from Reddit on databases.
Will you support non-serverless database types? And if so, will they just be pointing to RDS, MySQL, Postgres under the hood? So I mentioned earlier that our kind of developer preview of MySQL is almost ready to go. We think we launched it. We had to take it offline for a little while, but we think early next week it will be coming back on. It is not it's not serverless and it's not RDS backed. It's our own kind of hand rolled offering. So that's something to consider. And I think there's a very good chance that if demand, if people want it, I think there's a chance that we offer a similar version with Postgres flavor. And I also think we will end up doing RDS backed options as well, because I think that's something that people will want. So yeah, in short, I guess the answer is I think we'll end up with a hybrid of serverless our own MySQL and possibly Postgres offering, and then RDS options on top. Just going to answer that one in the thread. I can find it. Got it. Okay.
All right. Good?
Good. Are you guys gonna build a marketplace where developers can develop and provide some add-ons? I think there's nothing confirmed yet on that front, but I think there's a good chance where we offer more of like a curated marketplace. So tools and services that we like. If you could imagine things that are already in existing config files within Laravel applications, I think there's a good chance that we offer some sort of marketplace for those types of services and more on top of that as well. I'm not sure exactly what that looks like yet, but I'm pretty sure that's something that will come.
All right.
Okay. To what extent was data protection taken into account during development? Well, I already mentioned that we are like striving for SOC 2 right now. So a good chunk of that was putting the processes in place and having them in place during the build of Laravel Cloud so that we could achieve SOC 2 as soon as we possibly can afterwards. So yeah, I think that the short answer is we took it extremely seriously. Working towards SOC 2, we have the processes in place to make sure that we're doing our job correctly there. Can't find that question.
Yep.
Oh yeah, I'm looking for the wrong one. Got it.
All right. There are some good questions in chat that I want to bring up, but right now let's do this one.
Do you use TypeScript on the front end? We do not use any TypeScript on the front end, no. It's all plain React.
All right, so this question from, where is it? It was from Edwin. I've seen this a couple times. I actually want to know this for my own like side projects.
Will pricing calculator pricing examples on the docs be coming? Yeah, I think we would love, we have ambition to build like a fully fledged pricing calculator. It's going to take a little bit of work. There's a few moving parts to it, but I think that's ultimately where we want to land to make this kind of more visible and easier for people to understand.
And we'll go another one from X.
Can Laravel Cloud run server-side rendering for inertia apps? I don't think it can, but I'm doubting myself because I know this is a feature that we wanted to have desperately. So I think it's, if we don't have it right now, it's very, very soon on the roadmap. Yeah, definitely something that we want.
And do you think that'll be closer to like how Forge implements it, where it's kind of that one-click toggle?
I think that's what we'd like to do, yeah. Yeah, I think there'll be a one-click toggle for server-side rendering, which will start the process on your box when it spins up.
Awesome. Okay, here's one from Reddit.
Will there be support for Node.js applications? I actually think there's a bit more to this question. I'm going to read the full thing. Will there be support for Node.js applications? My intention is to use Laravel Symfony as a backend for Nux front end. I think it's important to be able to use Laravel Cloud for the front end for performance reasons, as there is very limited support in other platforms for South America. That feels like maybe we got two questions merged there. I guess the answer to the question is we have Node baked into our base images. But Cloud right now can't build and deploy a Next to Nux front end as things currently stand. I think we would like to offer that, though. So I think there's a good chance that comes later down the road. Okay.
All right. So I've seen this question come up a few times in chat and a couple of different places. So Raptor Anka from YouTube.
Is there a roadmap for new regions like EU North 1? So what we tried to do for region support was to come out the gate with good global coverage, which I think we've done pretty well. We have a couple of regions lined up that we're likely to do next. I think we already talked about Sydney being one of those, and I think we would like another US region. We don't necessarily have a roadmap after that. I think we're probably going to work on customer feedback at this point to see which the most popular, most sought after regions are and start implementing those as and when we can. Just going to answer that last question. Got it. Which parts of the infrastructure are required to be provided by Laravel Cloud and which parts can we bring our own? I guess the only part of Laravel Cloud which is required is the app compute. So if you want to bring your own object storage buckets, if you want to bring your own databases, if you want to bring your own caches, that's all totally fine. The one thing or the two things, I guess, to remember there are that you want to make sure that they're placed in a geographically similar location. And obviously you can choose with Cloud where you want your app compute to run. So just make sure that those are close by to where your external service or your other resources are running. And now I've forgotten what the other point was. Oh yeah, you need to make sure that they're publicly accessible because the private networking thing is something that won't be possible at this point. So you wouldn't be able to have it in your own private VPC and expect Cloud to be able to connect to it.
And a question from Andy in chat to follow up with that, and thanks Chris for answering as well. Bringing a Neon database that already exists, if they created it like on Neon's dashboard.
Yeah.
What does that look like?
Just inject your environment variables and you should be good to go. The only thing that you're missing there is that we won't be injecting those variables for you. So you just create your connection or you add those variables so that when you next deploy your application, you'll be able to connect to your Neon database. It should be as simple as that.
All right, perfect. Another one from Reddit.
What gotchas did you encounter building on AWS? I don't know if I have anything concrete. Well, maybe I do have something concrete. I guess there were like a few things that we just had to work around along the way. And I guess one of the big things there was AWS account limits. So we've had to work hard to kind of shard different parts of our infrastructure across multiple AWS accounts to account for that. And I guess that was probably the most difficult thing to tackle in terms of setting up AWS. Well, in terms of setting up our infrastructure within AWS, I guess.
All right, I'll do a couple more on this like AWS thread.
Are the instances used in AWS optimized for PHP and Laravel? We've chosen the instances based on what we've benchmarked to perform the best at the best cost. So we're running on the latest generation ARM processors in the data centers that we can based on their availability. I guess at the scale that we're operating at, it's not only clock speed that's important, but reliability and availability as well. And so those decisions that basically, or those factors that basically accounted for or factored into us making those decisions.
All right, looking through chat, there was another one on infrastructure side. Bobby.
What does your setup for network security? Do you use things like Cilium for networking and security policy? I guess I'm probably not the best person to answer that question, so I would probably follow up and speak to Chris, the other Chris that we've talked about, for developer, after the fact, and he can fill you in more here.
All right, now this next question, I do remember seeing something about it in chat earlier, so I apologize for missing that one, but this should answer it.
Will Laravel Cloud automatically perform the PHP configurations and setup changes? So the base images that we maintain and provide will be updated to make sure that things like security updates are patched and you're running the latest versions, the latest minor versions of PHP. That's on us to carry out those things. And then in terms of like performing configuration changes, like if you want to change PHP versions for your application, all you got to do is go in the UI, select the version that you want from the dropdown, and then redeploy your application, and you will just be running on whichever version of PHP that you have chosen. Hopefully that answers the question there. Okay, just responded to that one. Sorry, this missed you update the screen. Can the database hibernate while the app is awake? Yeah, so that's a great question, actually, because I mentioned that the app clusters and the worker clusters all hibernate together, but the database doesn't. So if you chose to have your application not hibernate, actually, which way around was the question? Can you have the database hibernate on the app? Yeah, so you can have hibernation turned off on your application, but have it turned on your database, and that will continue to hibernate independently of your application itself. One thing to bear in mind, I guess, is if you're using like the database driver for queue workers and for if you're like doing things with the database and the scheduler, then your database won't hibernate. So that's the kind of thing that you have to bear in mind, is if you want your database to hibernate, then you need to shy away from the kind of database drivers for things like that will interact with the database on a regular basis. Laravel Vapor is not mentioned on the new Laravel website. Is it going away? No, Vapor is absolutely not going away at all. It's still like Vapor is very close to my heart as well, because I worked on it for the better part of 2 years, and actually prior to working on Vapor, I used it in a previous previous job that I worked at, and it solved a whole lot of problems for me. And I still think there's a place for Vapor to solve those types of problems in those particular types of use case. I think it's still an incredibly good and worthwhile project, which we're still actively working on adding features to and maintaining. I don't think Vapor's going anywhere.
All right, just figuring out which one of these questions are going to go last. I think we're coming up on the end here. Joe, you've been fantastic. If you have any questions in chat, now's the time. We're going through our last batch of questions. And I'll do one from Raptor Anka from stream.
Will you add the ability to password protect a site like on Forge? I guess this is something that we've also talked about internally, and there's probably a couple of ways that we can solve this, of which neither exist at the moment. So we will definitely do one or the other or both. And so we could do something simple like an HT access type thing, basic auth that allows you to, put basic auth in front of your application. We could probably tackle something like that. Or the other option, which is probably closer to what most folks are used to with their Laravel applications, is putting your application into maintenance mode, potentially with a token that allows you to access that if you have that token available. So yeah, we don't have that now, but I definitely think it's something that we will have moving forward. Will Laravel Cloud support Bun? It's not baked in right now, but you can, if you really need it, you can actually install it during your build. So if you run during the build of your application, you can run npm install Bun, and you will have access to Bun. Okay.
All right, grabbing another one.
I'm sorry, I missed the question. Go on again.
Yeah, sorry.
Can Laravel Cloud use my own AWS account? No. So right now, as I mentioned a couple of times, it's all the infrastructure is all managed by Laravel within Laravel managed AWS accounts. So no, at the moment, I'm not sure this will ever change. Actually, it's not possible to bring your own AWS account.
But Forge is probably the best place if you're looking for that sort of thing, right?
Absolutely, yeah. So Forge, you can bring your AWS account, and even Vapor, like we just talked about. If you want a serverless offering, you can bring your own AWS account, connect your credentials, and then either spin up EC2 instances and have Forge provision those for you, or run in a serverless environment on Vapor.
Question from Pascal on X on billing.
One question about billing. Let's say my app has Hibernation activated and is awake for 5 minutes per hour. How will this be billed over a whole day? Do I have to pay for 24 hours, or will the time be summed up, meaning only, it's the latter. So that it's only the time that your application is awake that you will actually pay for. So two hours in that case. It's a great question.
All right. I think let's go for 5 more minutes. Joe, thank you so much for your time. We're coming up on an hour and 20 of just Joe hammering out questions. Let's see. Let me hide that one as well. Okay. So, Calvin is in chat. Billing is accurate to the second on compute.
Yep. Thanks, Calvin. It's keeping me honest.
Yeah. Let's see. I saw one earlier. Let me try to grab it.
I guess if you weren't aware, Calvin is our product manager on Cloud, so he is the oracle of all things billing.
Oracle Calvin. Let's see. Did we already do this one from Kevin?
Laravel Cloud is using Docker behind the scenes before. Hold on. Laravel Cloud is using Docker behind the scenes before launching on K8s. Is the Docker file something we can see so modify? Not at the moment. I mean, it's definitely technically possible for us to do that. It's just not something that we've considered to this point.
All right. Cool. This was fantastic. I just have one question left, unless chat has any more that you want to sneak in. But I'm going to throw this one on screen. Let me grab it.
How to migrate from an existing hosting / cloud setup, say DigitalOcean with multiple droplets, manage DB, etc., to Laravel Cloud? Is there any documentation on this? We don't have documentation on this right now because I guess this is kind of challenging to document in that there probably isn't like a one-size-fits-all answer to this question. Everybody's configurations are slightly different. Their migration paths, therefore, are going to be slightly different too. I would recommend if you have any questions, specific questions about this kind of thing, then reach out to our support team who would be happy to help. And by doing that, you'll also have that information will get fed back to us and the product team and the customer success team, so that we can update our documentation if there are kind of common themes occurring that we can tackle. That would definitely be really helpful.
Cool. Yeah, and something I want to call out too is we've seen this question come out a lot in the past couple of days. We definitely want to do something similar to this format where Joe kind of comes on, does an AMA. We want to have sort of a migrating from Forge to Cloud or migrating from Vapor to Cloud live stream. So if you're interested in that sort of live stream, definitely subscribe to the YouTube channel and you'll get notifications on when that goes live. We're targeting doing that one next week. So stay tuned for that. Let's see. Let me throw up a couple of the positive ones. This came in really early in the stream from Bobby.
Of course, Bobby. Anytime.
Let's see. MP has a great question on migration as well. I think we'll be able to cover this. We have a video on the YouTube channel where Christoph did importing, was it 1 million or 10 million rows into a database? But would you say this is kind of one of the big things that people ask about for migration?
Yeah, I mean, it's early days for cloud, right? So we're still getting questions like this coming in. And I always kind of assumed that this would be a big one. How do I migrate my databases? Like a whole bunch of considerations with that in terms of how much downtime you can afford, whether data can get out of sync for a short time, all that kind of stuff. So again, I don't think there's a one size fits all to this scenario, but I think database migrations are probably going to be something that we spend some more time and some kind of brain cycles on trying to help people figure out the best ways of doing this.
All right, awesome. Cool. I think that's going to wrap it up for us. Let me drop that banner. And yeah, Joe, how do you feel?
Feel good. That was a lot of fun. I was honestly not sure what to expect, kind of my first AMA, but friendly crowd, it seems. There was some really good questions in there, so thank you, everyone.
Yeah, cool. I appreciate everyone. And again, like and subscribe. We will have some more of these since this is a fantastic format. And yeah, we're targeting next week. So we will see you next week on the stream. Thanks for watching, everybody. Have a great rest of your day. Thanks, Joe.
Thanks. See ya.